Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plex. Today we have Karen De La Carriere, former Scientologist. Her YouTube channel, Surviving Scientology, has over 5 million hits, and we're having her on to talk about the practice of fair game. But first, Karen, I'd like to ask, when did you first join the Church of Scientology?
I believe the year was 1970. And I joined in London, England first, and then went to their famous East Grinstead manor called St. Hill.
Okay. And out of curiosity, how long have you been in the United States?
Since 1975.
Okay, I gotcha.
I've been a U.S. citizen for years. I'm not a recent migrant, long-term migrant.
Well, if you're from the UK, you hardly have any accent left, so.
You know, I was always very self-conscious about having an accent. I grew up speaking French and English, and I was bullied and teased on the way my words came out were a mixture of British French. So I learned to kind of mold in and not have an accent.
So, how did you first encounter Scientology? Where did they find you, or where did you find them?
This is boring. I had a boyfriend. I've told this story 1,000 times. This is not new. The boyfriend told me, if you want to have a relationship, you got to get counseling and auditing. And I was enamored with him enough that I took up the soup cans and I got into counseling. Right? That's about it in a nutshell. That none of that is exciting or really irrelevant. What is the thing is that I dive bombed into it and trained to the very highest level that one could possibly go, which is class 12 CS. In the history of the church, there are not more than 7 people who have trained to that level. It is brutal. You work 60 to 80 hours a week. You burn the midnight oil. You work. You train. You videotape. And so, of course, this means absolutely nothing. And to me, I had one jubilant day in my life when I came home and I realized the scam of it and the criminality of it and the deep layers of fraud. And I took these glorious certificates of authenticity. Some were signed by Hubbard himself. And I shredded and gutted these so-called certificates in a shredder that I have, which I pet named Jaws, because it's shredded and so I feel I should have saved them as trophies to show authenticity, but I shredded my certificates with my pet shredder called Jaws. And then I felt a liberation that I had shredded these so-called certificates.
Can you describe some of the more bizarre things that you might have had to do, or that one might have to do to get to the very top level of Scientology?
Well, Scientology redefines the word lie as short story or acceptable truth. What you portray to the public and then what goes on behind closed doors are schizophrenic, totally, utterly different versions of. But you believe in the cult, you don't believe you're lying. You believe that this is what is defined as acceptable truth, or in other words, a white lie.
Anything to help the church, basically, right?
Yes. The formula implanted in your brain is called the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. And because there is some technology in counseling that does give people some gain, the big question is at what cost? If I offered you a gold bar, but I wanted to lop off your right hand, lop it off like ISIS do, take an axe hammer, would you accept the gold bar in exchange for lopping off your right arm?
I have an important question. How big is the gold bar? Because I might be able to buy a new arm.
Say 12 inches by 6. I mean, a solid gold bar.
No, I'm just kidding. But I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. It's they want to tell you that you're going to be a better communicator, but then they take over your life, basically.
Absolutely. Scientology is a snitch ratting community. Children are encouraged to rat on their own mom and dads. Mom and dads write up and report their own kids. Everyone reports to the mother church. Everyone is encouraged. There's no such thing as family privileged communication between husband and wife. If the husband says something pillow talk in bed, that he had a fantasy of sleeping with 2 women, the wife will dutifully the next day report it to the mother church. My husband told me in bed he had a fantasy of sleeping with 2 women. At that point, the husband is raked in to the church and put on confessional auditing, $500 to $800 an hour, where he has to confess this dirty, bad thought of touching himself while he slept with 2 women. This is the church is a ratting, snitching. Everybody report everyone else all the time, 24, 365, 7 days a week.
So people live in fear not only of the establishment of the church, but of their peers.
Yes, your best friend would turn you in a New York second. You tell your best friend something in confidence, and the next day it's reported to the church, and the church hierarchy are summoning you, and all your so-called misdemeanors or things that don't please the church, this is all monetized.
Right, they charge you for it, basically.
It's a sin, and now you pay for confessional auditing to give them all this stuff, which they hoard in all kinds of data files to one day attack you. David, when I came out of the church very publicly on a blog, Marty Rathbun's blog, within 3 days, the FBI were given an anonymous phone call that I was trafficking underage children for sex.
The term for this is swatting, kind of. It's where you don't like what somebody's saying on the internet, and you send the police to their house. Stupid people do it in chat rooms or blogs where they don't like if somebody doesn't like your politics and they get so mad at you, or if somebody gets mad at you during a video game. This is a practice actually we kind of goofed off and talked about on our big show, The Plex.
That's great. I never knew the definition of swatting. I never even, that's very good. I'm going to look it up in Urban Dictionary. But anyway, when the FBI and a child protective deputy sheriff arrived at a person that they accused that I was sending him children for underage sex, when that happened, the FBI quickly, it didn't seem to, it was first of all, it was an anonymous phone call. An anonymous, there's no, and they were sort of apologizing and said, look, it's to do with children, so we have to do a routine check. This man was sitting there with his wife, and it didn't look, so the FBI said, do you have any enemies? And he said, nah, I can't think of it. Does Karen de la Carriere have any enemies? And he said, oh, she just came out swinging against the Church of Scientology 3 days ago. Boom! Interview over. The FBI knew
that it was fair game.
Yes, absolutely. They weren't going to be made fools of. They were made fools of with Paulette Cooper. So interview over, case closed. They didn't even call me. I had to call. They left their business. I had to call them and say, come see me. Come. They closed the case. As soon as they heard the word Scientology, accusation and anonymous bogus phone call was over.
So I have a question. While you were in the church, did you ever meet that Tommy Davis guy?
I did not.
What a smarmy motherfucker. No, we found him. I think he's some kind of banker, kind of hedge fund guy on one of the southwestern states. I don't have the information right now, and while I'm talking to you, I don't really feel like looking things up on Google because that's going to make a really shitty interview. But I think he's works for some bank in like Arizona or New Mexico or something. I could swear Gawker found him.
Yes, that is true. He has a very, very wealthy father, his own blood father, not Ann Archer, his mother's. I did visit with Tommy Davis's mom when I was married to the president of the Church of Scientology International, Heber Jensch. I visited with Tommy Davis's mom and stepfather in Beverly Hills. We had dinner. Tommy, I think. And Tommy's own blood father is a multi-millionaire. In fact, he hosts dinners for visiting presidents of the United States, for fundraising. He's in that category where he puts on a grand dinner. That's Tommy Davis's father. So Tommy Davis fled the church and landed on his feet. And you're absolutely right. It's some kind of finance, either hedge fund or some finance company.
Wait, you used the word fled. Is he, to the best of your knowledge, did he route out, I think they call it?
Well, Tommy Davis pulled a caper on the church, which is infamous.
Oh, really?
In this day and age.
Oh, let's have it. Let's have it. Give it to me.
He said his wife, Jessica, was terminal with cancer and she was in the medical, and all of the internet, the ex-Scientologists had such sympathy and said, "Oh, Tommy, we are so sorry. Your wife is terminal," and tons of people sent love notes. "Jessica, we are so sorry." Tommy Davis, the word put out was that she was about to die. In 3 weeks, she'd be dead. Well, lo and behold, a year later, she won Real Estate Agent of the Year in Austin. Go look at it. It was a scam to get out of the church. And if you pretend your wife is dying, it worked.
They didn't. Do you think they fair gamed him, or does his dad have so much money that they're not going to fuck with him?
No, they won't. It's I scratch your back, you scratch my back. Tommy Davis,
they're like, you shut up and we'll leave you alone.
Yes. I think the only reason Tommy Davis doesn't speak up, though, God knows he has horrific stories to tell, is that his mother, his beloved mother, Ann Archer, the actress, is diehard in the church, pampered by the church. Celebrities are given a whole different red carpet. They don't see anything like the darker side of Scientology. Their cars are their cars are parked by valet parking, by Sea Orgs. They arrive. They have a different.
Right, it's all very posh.
It's all very posh, yes.
And they don't go to, for example, Sea Org, where the people are doing manual labor and those kinds. They don't see this other side of the church. They see the celebrity centers. They go to the events. This is what people who have a lot of money see. Maybe not even celebrities, just people who go in with a substantial amount of money only see the work being done by the higher level people who are, for example, parking their car, because parking Tom Cruise's car is probably quite an honor within the church. So they're not seeing the kids who are forced to do labor or any of those things, because all that is sequestered away from the part of Scientology that faces out.
David, you're very well informed. You hit it right on the nose. Celebrities also get something called room service. Room service means if you've got a headache or you want a counselor, you've stubbed your toe, the counselor will privately come to your home for room service counseling. You don't even have to step into a church. You're Tommy Davis's mom, Ann Archer. You want a little bit of, counseling. You pick up the phone and an auditor will arrive at your door on demand, right?
Do they charge these people a lot of money for this?
Well, yes, they pay. The pampering of these celebrities is so that they go out and shill for the church. For the church.
Oh, I know what the word shill is. I've been called a shill sometimes.
Yeah. And so back to my original point is, I believe Tommy Davis will hang on till his mom dies. He will not disrespect his mom and speak out on the religion and faith his mom belongs to. So, but yes, Tommy Davis comes from great wealth, very wealthy father, and knows a lot of where the skeletons are buried. Tony Ortega gave incredible daily posts on Tommy Davis and his shenanigans.
I met Tommy Davis, let's say, when I saw the Scientology and Me. Because when my friend ended up joining the cult, I had to know what it was. Like, I'm not religious. I don't consider myself spiritual. And to me, I was like, oh, this is a bunch of bullshit. So I had to look it up, and then I found Tony Ortega. But the first person I found, funny enough, was Tommy Davis, because I saw the video of him with John Sweeney from the BBC, where he essentially stalked and harassed him. And and that guy's how I met. That's how I met the bad part of Scientology. To me, like. But if he ever goes public, man, I would love to talk to him. Oh man, that would be so great. I could be like, remember when you did this?
Yes.
But he was the first face of Scientology I ever saw, and Tommy Davis to me he was just the way he treated people, and the way he was like very good at this run, like a Gish Gallop, where you just keep throwing shit at somebody. You don't let them talk, you don't let them answer. You make like 25 claims in like 5 minutes, and then the person is just completely flustered. That's a tactic that some of their media spokespeople use. It's called the Gish Gallop. I'm sure that you were aware of. Maybe if you didn't know the name, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do indeed. The spokesman for the previous 20 years before Tommy Davis was Mike Rinder.
No, I know who he is too.
And Mike was elegant and never got into this abusive conduct. This Tommy Davis conduct, screaming and overwhelming and thrusting and antagonizing, this is an absolute echo of the church leader, David Miscavige, who is really a violent beater. He body slams people on the ground, he slams them against walls, and his entire thrust as leader of the church is overwhelmed by force. If you overwhelm, then the person, you'll shut him down. And David, I want to tell you, the Church of Scientology is a dominant, submissive culture. It is completely operates on he who yells the loudest and the most violent can get obedience and compliance, or what I call submissiveness.
So you talked a little bit a while ago about the first 3 days only after you left and went public. What like in the next 6 months, what kinds of things were you subject to on a regular basis?
The church did a stream of sending out anonymous email to slime and smear me, and then they went to the city of Los Angeles. David, I am so bonded with animals. Animals were my therapy coming out of this cult. I tell you, my interchange with my dogs and my birds, I healed. Animals are precious to me. So Scientology goes to the city of LA Animal Control and files a complaint that I'm torturing my animal.
That's what all that auditing is about, right? So they know that you love your fucking animal like that, and they know where to hit you.
Yes, they knew exactly. And simultaneously with doing that, they went to the health department and they called the city of Los Angeles Health Control to say that I was a health hazard, that I lived with such incredible dirt, that there were rat droppings knee high, and that the whole neighborhood could go down with a virus. They made a big mistake. When they did these reports to the city about me, they cut and pasted the same allegations that they put on a hate website on me. So it totally connected the church, because only the Church of Scientology made these allegations. The health department was almost apologetic. They wouldn't even come in. They said, look, they were looking at my rose garden and my water fountain.
They're like, there's no rats here. And if there is a rat here, he's happy.
When you have a waterfall and a manicured lawn with a rose garden, I'm not going to live like. He wouldn't even come in. He sort of also he said, you know, Karen, when people make enemies, they try to involve the city. They said, nobody writes like this, that rats droppings are infesting the floor. I mean, nobody, it was so over the top and so over the moon.
Were these anonymous reports as well?
Yes.
Which is really interesting because, well, if you give me just 30 seconds here, when Anonymous came out, Scientology's big critique against them was that they were hiding who they were. And then Scientology, It turns out, when you leave the church and they don't like you, they hide who they are.
Anonymously. Of course, they scream about Anonymous while they do their dirty tricks anonymous. But we knew it was the church because the same allegations was made on a church hate website.
Are these sites still up about you?
Well, the new allegation on me is that I'm a prostitute. You know, I'm 71 years old, for God's sake. I've been happily married for years. This is the same stuff that Hubbard did on his wife. Sarah Northrop. He not only called her a prostitute, he even told officials like the FBI she was a prostitute. Look, I trained in the 70s under L. Ron Hubbard. I'm an older woman now. But this does not stop the church. I've done just the most fantastic knockout video on all of this, which Tony Ortega is about to play on his site. But the new allegation, which for 40 years, in all the confessionals I had, the church never asked me about prostitution. And they're famous for trying to get dirt on you. Suddenly, in the last 6 months, this is the new allegation on me. Anyway, to finish my story, Animal Control came and refused to even do an inspection as soon as we said Church of Scientology. Then my lawyer wrote a letter, and the City of LA District Attorney's Office said, "Thank you so much for informing us that the Church of Scientology is wasting city employee resources and time. We have flagged your address. If we get any further allegations, which we now know is the Church of Scientology, these will be filed away without any further action." So basically, the city of LA got wise that it was just fair game and dirty tricks of the church, and let me know that the Church of Scientology had been red flagged as just wasting the time of city resources. So that was the end of that era of fair game.
So when you were in the church, did you ever fair game anyone? Were you ever involved?
I worked in what's called the Office of Special Affairs, their dirty black operation. And I did one thing in all my 20 years of being on staff, which I'm not proud of, but without getting the consent of the person that I did something on. He laughs about it. We're best friends. We socialize at parties now. We've hugged. I deeply apologized to him. He completely forgave me. But I think before getting into that, I should at least get his okay. If you invite me back one day for other stories, maybe I could tell you then.
Yeah. Or if he was on the receiving end of some fair game, and if he's interested, I'd like to talk to him too. This is one of the overarching things we're talking about. Is actually when you go to leave a cult, that they are none too pleased, and depending upon how much power and money and influence they have, they will do different things to people who have left the cult.
I think that he would just love. He was fair gamed for 20 years. 20 years. They kept going and going. I've only been out 5 years. I've been fair gamed in different tricks, dirty tricks for 5 years. He was fair gamed for 20 years, and the stories he could tell you. So I absolutely, no sooner than we finish, when I'll jazz him up. Is it okay if I give him your email address?
Oh, please do.
Yes, and he's on Skype as well. So you'll have. I'd love to do that for you, David. Love to do that.
Well, great. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to start doing YouTube videos and activism, and then we're going to finish this up because I want to go out and have a couple beers.
It's Friday night.
It is.
I was married to the president of the Church of Scientology International, Heber Jensch, and we had a child. And I was, really into it all, believing in the cult. My child was born in the cult, so that's all he ever knew. But as I started seeing all the top execs of the church leave, my best friends of 30, 40 years were speaking out. I was electrified to be reading all this, and I joined them to speak out. And the moment I did, when I came out on Marty Rinda's blog, my son was manipulated by the church to shun and disconnect me. This is a story I must tell you. So for the last 2 years of his life, his father is imprisoned in the cult in a dungeon called SP Hole. Please Google that. SP, suppressive person, SP Hole. Wikipedia have a whole page explaining. So my son had no father because he was in the dungeon, and my son was strictly ordered to not talk to me. They set him up in an ambush to talk to me, and then my son got pneumonia, and he didn't take any antibiotics. 99% of pneumonia victims can be cured. He took drugs, which were prescribed drugs, not street drugs, but he took a cocktail of drugs, and he died at 27 years old. He was dead. And the church was so malicious. Even though I'd served and slaved them the best decades of my life, they would not even tell me his dead body was lying in the morgue, Los Angeles morgue. A stranger private messaged me to say, your son is dead lying in the morgue. And I thought, that can't be. It must be the father. But it was my 27-year-old son. This was 2.5 years ago. And he was lying in the morgue. And the church manipulated the funeral parlor. In the autopsy, he hadn't even taken not even a single antibiotic, which would have saved his death of pneumonia. And I feel the cult has blood on its hands because by manipulating and keeping the disconnection going, he was dead. So my YouTube channel grew out of me. The very first YouTube channel I did is called The Church of Scientology Killed My Son. So these 5 million views and the following I have, 13,000 plus followers on YouTube, all the following I have has stemmed out of Alexander's death. All mothers of the world who've had their child taken by a cult relate to my tragic story. The church tried to bury the fact that Alexander Jench, son of the president, was dead of a drug overdose. They tried to bury it. And when they finally had a little bit of a funeral, they would not let me attend Alexander Jench's funeral. This is a son I bore out of my own womb, C-section, drugs, pain. This was my blood child. But because of his death, and I'm long past menopause, I will never have another child. So the bloodline, I will never be a grandma. The bloodline of my family has completely, utterly cut down. That I want to tell your audience. This is the Church of Scientology. Thank you, David.
Thank you for coming on. And if you can forward my information to the friend of yours who was bothered, let's say, for 20 years, I wouldn't mind having a little chat with him. You seem really nice. I'm really glad you called in, and we can definitely have another chat later if you're inclined. Just hit me up and let me know.
I would be delighted to be that. David, I have stories from here till sunset.
Hello, humans. This is Xenu. Don't try lying, because I've seen you. Here revealing my once expensive secrets. Believe me, people, I'm as freaking real as Jesus. For 1,000 measly dollars, I can teach you how to follow our directions for better living. But no drugs, no sex, and we get one of your kidneys.
Sign here.
Everyone tune in Sunday nights for The Plex, hosted by producer Dave, fucking Harrison, no longer former producer Steven, and The Peanut Gallery.